The next take is about vitality, and this is going to be a kind of spicy a little bit because I think because of these lineup changes that have and the fact that they brought back a coach that worked so well with Apex, Vitality is going to be the team with the most titles at the end of 2024.
Ooh, so all of next year, okay.
All of next year. So 12 months from now, when we are staring down the last World Finals, whatever, Vitality is going to have the most titles. I don't know if it's going to be the major or not, but tier 1 events, the IEMs, the Colognes, the Katowice, the majors, everything that comes, And I'll tell you why. Because they made the sick signing for number one argument. They signed Mesi, who is a super young player, who is very communicative, who is very reasonable when it comes to his roles, very hard working. He's going to do whatever needs to be done, and he can deal with different roles in the team. He can be entry, he can be a little bit more defensive. He used to IGL, he did all these things in Fnatic and previously in Cloud9, and then he did it well. Even though Fnatic in the past, however, it wasn't so good, they bought the right player for the right team. They have the perfect core with Flames, Spinks, and him. Right now, I'm not even counting ZywOo there in the core right now. Simply just to prove how strong the firepower and this trio is, this rifler trio is for Vitality. They can stand up against anybody in the circuit right now, including Nico, including like all these like top tier players and top tier teams. They can just go against anyone right now as that rifler trio. Then on top of that, you have ZywOo, who we don't know how it's gonna work in CS2. It's gonna be the same as CS2, probably is. Let's see how it goes, but still he's there. On top of that, they have Apex, who is working well with Xtaz, who came back from a little trip to TSM, I guess, and a little time off. And then two of them used to work there. You used to see like a lot of interviews, a lot of videos. They talk about it. They work very well in their game style, in their game. The way they played the game was more towards ZywOo when it comes to Xtaz. He gave him more freedom, more responsibility. I don't know if it's going to be the same thing now, but he has a lot better supportive elements around ZywOo that he had in the previous lineup of Vitality, the full French one, right? So I think, and mentality, for example, of Mesi is also very good. I think he's very receptive to criticism, to like fixing things, and I think he will respect the coach, he will respect the team and the organization. There is no chance for me that thing fails, unless something crazy happens, which I don't think it's going to happen. Overall, they have a sick rifling trio, very young rifling trio. They have super young ZywOo as well, and experienced IGL with a coach that he knows and that he has a good chemistry. So overall, I see them winning titles in 2024, in 2025, but just to keep this like hot take not too like kind of spread out, I'm just going to say for the 2024, they're going to be the team with the most tier 1 events or wins, whatever.
Okay. I'll say one thing that's really nice that pads your take is the fact that Vitality as an org just seems so stable compared to some of these other ones. Like with all these other teams that potentially could actually, if it, like basically there were no rumors, you would probably just kind of go with something easy, like say FaZe would do it. But we know that there's likelihood that FaZe is going to be broken apart. With G2, it seems like that team's going through some changes also, and they might just lose their star in-game leader. And so if you look at some of the better teams right now, the only people that really can actually go toe-to-toe with them would be like MOUZ, just for stability's sake. And I don't even know if I could say Na'Vi, because it seems like Simple might come back too, so that might change this team's outlook too. And I'd have to pick a team like VP like VP to actually maybe win more titles than them, or Complexity. Yeah, and it's with Vitality and their backing, it is hard to go against that. I will say though, just to kind of slight your point in some way, I mean, I don't think that core rifle trio is better than MOUZ's core rifle trio right now. I would take Frozen, Yimpad, and Exertion over Flame, Spinks, and Mesi. The core is just younger. Mesi's 25 years old. Frozen, Yimpad, Exertion, like no one's even breaking 21 years of age. Frozen is 21 right now, and so for like the longevity of the roster and just these players, I think that the people on MOUZ have longer careers ahead of them than say somebody like Mesi. I don't doubt that Mesi is a good player, but he's not really scratching top 20 in the world for me, where Frozen and Yimpad are both right there. They're both incredibly strong right now. But I will say that with MOUZ, like the biggest The elephant in the room with that team is obviously the fact that if you're going 1-to-1 with a Vitality, is that you have Torzy versus ZywOo, and I would take ZywOo 100 out of 100 times before I take Torzy. So that's where I think that Vitality has a huge edge. And I think it's a pretty good take, Kassad. I think it's actually a pretty good take. I think Vitality, they just got the org, they got the backing, they got the coach IGL duo that makes this very possible.
See, here's what's spicy is I actually thought, even on the last episode, about doing a hot take that goes counter to this and saying that actually I don't think the Mesi signing is that good, so I'm going to disagree. Now, here's the problem. Because of how messy CS2 is right now, I'm not saying I disagree in the sense that, like, I have a more obvious team that'll win more titles. Like, I don't know who will win the most titles in 2024. Like, I'd have to purely speculate. Like, will FaZe even exist? Who the fuck knows right now? What team will Simple play for? Will Falcons be any good? Will G2? No one can. I can't, like, it's not like there's an obvious team that makes that a stupid take. I just don't actually think that the Vitality lineup is actually that great, and here's why. Because the problem I have is this. I think people are doing like almost like linear thinking, where when Flames came in instead of Dupree, right, the reason why that's not that crazy a gamble is because you've still got the other 4 players that did just win tournaments, win the major, like history, experience. But when you're changing 2 pieces, remember, Flames himself is barely bedded in. He's played what, like 1.5 lands or something. Like, he hasn't played, and they obviously went out of 1 really quickly. Like, he himself hasn't like gotten totally established and figured out all his roles. He like did all right at that LAN. Then you add in that Mesi is mega inexperienced. Like, people forget this. Look, he had that 1 major Rio where he made top 8. That's it. Aside from that, you go look at LANs. Dude, he's one of those people that should be fucking glad that ESL likes like 12 teams in the playoffs of Pro League. Oh, this motherfucker would barely have ever played in a playoff. Ever. And by the way, Pro League playoffs are the ones where, like, your girlfriend, a guy running the fucking Coke machine, and an ESL admin of the fucking crowd, like, beast behind you. Like, mate, I've had more people shout that at fucking pantomime than an ESL Pro League game. So already, the experience actually isn't that great on those 2 players. And you notice, by the way, when I'm looking at this team, I'm now having to make Spinks a really experienced player in this lineup. Like, he himself's only been in the game a couple of years. So after that, what have you got left after you bring in Mesi and you've got Flames? So you've got Spinks, who, by the way, has now sort of hit a run where he's consistently a star, but he himself was having a lot of problems in this lineup when he first came in. He was really up and down. ZywOo has done nothing in CS2 so far. He actually looks shit. By the way, that whole thing that everyone's loving, all those fans of ZywOo, he's a genius though, because Simple has to work really hard, but ZywOo can just like wake up and play. I tell you what, he can't play CS2, can he, motherfucker? I saw him. He was just average as fuck. Like, that wasn't ZywOo. Where's this guy? Like, this, if that's true, by the way, he doesn't put in the hours. He better put in loads of hours now then, because the talent's there, but he hasn't. At the moment, we're all taking for granted in this convo that ZywOo's going to be CSGO ZywOo and be potentially the best player in the world. That's why they're going to win the tournament. And then lastly, to me, I of all the players, right, literally, if you asked me to make an order, Kassad, of players you can't remove from this team, like, of importance, yeah, ZywOo's number 1. Dude, I would have had Magus number 2 over Spinks. Like, I actually think if you watch the way they won those tournaments this year, Magus is like the player who, like, controls the game for them. Like, his fucking decision-making is cracked in the mid-game, mate. I think, genuinely, I can see why people thought he might be an IGL one day. He has the mind for it, just, like, reads the game, and so you can't just bring him, like, Messi's an alright player, like, he's a good prospect. If this was like, if he was joining Ents or Mouse or something, I'd be going, yeah, great pickup. My problem here is though, like, what I'm losing from Magus, I'm not really gaining with Mesi. Like, he's not as good as Magus is. And also, Magus has been in, like, the biggest finals. He's won all the tournaments. And then lastly, the coach thing isn't minor either. Another factor that gave the team stability before is you had ZywOo, who you knew how he was going to play amazing. And then you had Dupree and Magus, plus their long-term coach who knows how to come to. Now they have X-Stars. Here's the one angle no one's thought about. All the last narrative from the ZywOo camp and Apex and Vitality has been, right, well, we've been working to sort of bring him more out of his shell and make him get a bit more selfish. This is the guy who had ZywOo doing all that shit years ago, as in, this is the guy who, if anything, I worry about this. I get the vibe about X-Stars that he's like one of those, like, players, coaches, Kassad, where it's like everyone loves him because he gives you, like, what you want. Like, I don't know how it's going to work with this lineup. Like, everyone's acting also like the Zonic thing didn't happen. Like, they just... Basically, let's be real, of the team that won the major, they only have 3 people, essentially. They have Apex, ZywOo and Spinks. That's it. They don't have the coach. They've changed 2 players. So I just think it's way more up in the air. I will say, The interesting thing is you're not trying to recreate Vitality. Like Vitality was like Zemu better be almost the best in the world. Spinks better be really good, and then basically make us play well, and then beyond that we've got a team. This team is more like actually just one of these like general international mixes. Like the base level of the players is pretty good, but I think it is almost impossible when I look at these players on paper to know what fucking style of play will they have, how will they play around people, how will they like figure out the dynamic of like what is like Flames just a bitch in this team? Does Mesi just do all the shit? How does it work? Like, I don't know, but I don't think it's as obvious. Like, I understand why on paper you think the player strength is X. I agree. They can obviously aim-wise go head-to-head with almost any team. I just don't know about all the like team building aspect. I could see a world where this is just like the fourth best team or something.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with you on a couple of things there, even though you kind of killed my faith in Vitality right now. But the thing is, I do agree with you on the coach thing. And I do agree with you with the Magisk being important piece if in that team, simply because, like you said, he is the one that kind of controls the game and dictates what's gonna happen in certain times. While Spinks, for example, is a player that reacts to certain things happening, right? And then he's gonna wait for something to happen so he can do his own thing. Mesi, why I'm backing him up is the fact that I know him personally, and I know what he can do on the server, at least what he could do back in 3 years ago. So, and he has been only better since then. Yes, the reason why he was only in this like 12-team playoffs bullshit that you were talking about, I think that's, not entirely his.
No. I'm just saying he's just got the experience on my angle, yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, yes, I mean, but he did collect some experience based on that. He did play in some arenas. He did okay considering the circumstances. He is not top 10 player by any means, but I think he'll do. He'll do just enough. The problem that I have is that coaching thing. Maybe you are right about that. I don't know how is, obviously in the previous iteration, right, Xtaz was with full French lineup, right?
Well, we'll just say, to be fair, Kassad, technically he is a top 2 coach in the world. He is nominated for Coach of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, obviously. What the fuck was that? Anyway, even him.
By the way, shall I tell you the real reason I think that's happened for real? That just looks like some bozo shit of like, I heard Vitality won the major. Who's that? And then someone's gone like, Xtaz, he's the coach. And then they put Xtaz and Zonic there, and they've realized he hasn't been in the team for like a year. No, it's obvious,
exactly
isn't
what happened.
I know.
Exactly what happened. The thing is, like, what I was going to say, he only worked with French players in that previous lineup of Vitality when they were successful, right? And after that, he went to a break. He went to G2 when he was international lineup. He didn't do well there.
No one even knows what happened there to this day. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the public doesn't know, right? The thing is, like, he took a break.
That was great. He did that like an aristocrat or something there, didn't he? It was well delivered. Okay, well done.
After that, he took a break and then came back in TSM in the international lineup. He was there for a very short time, and now he's coming back. Now
that was ridiculous. He had like it's like they say in America. He had a cup of coffee with TSM, basically. Like, what the fuck? Yeah. He was there for 5 minutes.
It's just, I mean, if I was him, I would do the same thing, right? Why not? You get the chance of working.
Well, so he just volunteered that. Found them. Fuck it, I'd just leave immediately as well. Fuck them.
I mean, not because of TSM, but because of, opportunity.
It's a better opportunity. Yeah, got to take it.
It's just why the fuck not? And you didn't, the thing is, like, maybe you ruined the vision of TSM, but it's business, whatever. That's why we have contracts.
Yeah.
But well, we should have contracts. But the thing is, like, coming back into another international lineup might be challenging for him because those are not French people. It's an Englishman. There's 2 Israelis. There is like then 2 Frenchmen. So it's gonna be very interesting to see how they work together. But I made my point, and I'm sticking to it.
I just want to remark on the fact that, like, this is not, it's a little bit of a tangent from your take, but a lot of people were really praising this move for Vitality. But I mean, you would never have done this willingly if you, like, people are almost the like uproar in terms of positive feedback for Vitality is like, oh, they get to sign Mesi, this is so good for them. But like, Mesi to me is a strict downgrade over Magisk, like, or under Magisk. I would never, like, you look at all the characteristics that made Magisk good, and I think some people are trying to do this weird cope of like, well, Mesi was an in-game leader for a brief amount of time. It's like, you don't think Magisk is going to put in that much input to this team, if not more than what Mesi did in a positive and winning fashion. I just don't know where that came from. And also, there's always been, like, keep reading this comment over and over again, and I have to address it, is that multiple people on multiple boards and everything are just like, I think Mesi can be, if he's freed from Fnatic, can be a top 20 player. It's like, when has that ever been indicated that he has that ability? Like he's a good player. Like, Mesi is an above average pro. He is definitely an above average pro, but he has not shown to me that he is in that upper echelon of elite players, even at his role. He's very good, but he's not top 20 caliber for me.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with you. He's not like, somebody's going to be top 10 at least. Maybe he can break in like into top 20 based on the results if they have it. Like, you remember the Astralis years when all the 5 players were in top 10. Is like, it can happen, right? But the thing is, like if you compare it to a bunch of other players right now out there, he's not going to be close to them. But is he going to? The problem is that we try to compare him to Magisk, and it's uncomparable right now. Magisk brings so much more. Simply in terms of experience, he's not that much older. He's 25, 26 as well. It's just there is so much more value on Magisk as a player than on a Mesi, right? But the firepower is something that he can, bring to that team. Maybe a little bit of experience, not as much as Magisk had, but something that he can bring. And like I said, his personality and mentality in game is quite not special, but it's like more than above average, right? It's different than what normal players are these days. That's the whole.
By the way, like I say, the weird thing about this move is I actually do like Mesi and think he is a good player. I think Maui nailed it where he just said it like that. Essentially, if this was like a normal roster mania, and at the end of it all, you'd heard all these rumors like Nico's going to Falcons and Snap, and then at the end someone goes, and Mesi's joined Vitality, you wouldn't go, holy shit, that's the signing of it. You'd go, what? Like, I agree, it's copium. It's because Magisk is gone, and quite frankly, the real problem is who is the Magisk in the scene? Like, you actually have to sign some godlike player to replace him. So, there's not really an obvious answer. I think it's more like people are just like, yeah, not bad. When you say, what about Mesi? Yeah, not bad. Yeah, maybe that could work. But like I say, I'm more thinking along the lines of when I think of top peak Vitality, look, there's also a world, I will say this, there's a world where if Ziwu and Spinks are really insanely good, maybe it doesn't matter, maybe that just makes up for the whole squad, it could just be a great 1-2 punch. But actually, I thought the brilliance of the old Vitality lineup is essentially, it did give Ziwu, who sometimes didn't always have a great playoff game, or Spinks, who could just sometimes have a bad game, they had a pressure release valve, because you knew Magisk could carry a game. He could step up and just take over a match, or play well against an opponent in a hard spot, so there's time to come to life in the game, See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.